Between Ryan Day and the rest of the coaching staff and the players, are they getting beat over the head about 2016?
Yes, there have been a lot of questions about that. And, of course, Ryan Day says, I wasn't here. He disavows any knowledge of it. I think the seniors, like KJ Hill, he obviously would have played in that game. Jordan Fuller, I looked it up. I did a story on him. He had one tackle in that game. Ohio State had the All-American Malik Hooker and Damon Webb were the starting safeties. I presume Fuller got his tackle, probably covering a punt or a kick. But some of the other guys, Robert Landers was on that team, Jay Sean Cornell, and a lot of the guys, I'm sure Bowen and, a lot of them, although they didn't play roles perhaps in that game or on that team, they probably got in late in the fourth quarter when it was 31-0, a lot of them, but not a pleasant memory. And as I outlined earlier, at least they have some playoff experience with one go-round through this thing. The rest of the team does not. And I think the seniors have kind of set the tone and said, look, this is a bowl trip, and we're going to, go feed the pony, and we're going to go do this, and we're going to do that, and whatever. But this is more of a business trip, and this is to improve our legacy. The seniors, if they win the game, will be 50-5 in 4 years. The best record Ohio State's ever had was 50-4 in a 4-year period. So these guys can match that number of wins, and they can actually exceed it if they go on and get 50 and then 51 in the championship game. They would be the winningest group of seniors in Ohio State history, plus would have a national championship and be immortalized, at Ohio State. These kids, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-old kids, they're going to college and they're trying to get their degrees and they're trying to get to the NFL, but they've played football since the time they were 5 or 6 years old on a peewee field. And this is the day that they have been working for their entire life. And it doesn't get any bigger than this. And, Michigan games and everything else, this is a different animal. This is a different breed. And this is the biggest day of a lot of these kids' lives, is going to be going out on that field tomorrow in Glendale and playing in front of the world. And, as Mickey Marotti says, some do, some don't. And we're going to find out tomorrow who does. And that's what these kids are fighting for.
I posted a video that ran down the participants in the 2016 game. Surprisingly, Clemson had 3 offensive linemen who played like a lot of snaps, like 50, 60, 70 snaps in that game that are still around and playing really well, and all ACC performers. For the Buckeyes, it was scattered all over the field. As you mentioned, KJ Hill and Damon Arnett and Jordan Fuller and Robert Landers. Benjamin Victor actually had the second longest play in that game for Ohio State. Also had a pass interference picked up against Clemson. So, Kevin, you're jumping around all these different radio shows. What are people talking about out there?
Yeah, I just did a radio show in the South, and I think that they definitely do feel that Ohio State's going to press Clemson. I mean, it was not a question of the fact that Clemson hasn't really played anybody this year. I've talked to some people who have been like, UVA this and Wake Forest that, and I'm like, I'm not having any of that. I don't buy that whatsoever. But just because you haven't played anybody doesn't mean that your team isn't good. It kind of goes to the same situation in recruiting when everybody believes that the top players have to come from Florida and California and Texas and whatnot. I'm like, if the top 50 players are from Vermont, so be it. They're from Vermont. It doesn't matter what happens at that point. And I believe that to be the case here too, that Clemson is supremely talented, but they've not faced anybody like Ohio State. So they definitely want to talk about Justin Fields' knee. They want to talk about J.K. Dobbins in the run game. They want to talk. They're very interested in talking about Ohio State's secondary and how they're going to perform. And then, of course, we always get into a nice debate over who the true DBU is. So those are really the kind of things that I've talked about here as I've been doing my radio tour today.
Just want to add that you can play the college football tournament at play.moneyball.com. And what you do there is you're up for $2,000 in prizes, and it's free to play. You can enter up to 30 times. Enter by January 6th. January 6th. play up to 30 times. You can win up to $2,000 in prizes, making various score and statistical predictions on the college football playoff games, but this one specifically for Ohio State fans. Tony, as we've got you guys for about 10 or 12 minutes, your keys to the game outside of the obvious of the turnover margin. If it's 5-0, some team's going to have a huge advantage.
Well, for me, I go back to what I've said all along, and I believe Ohio State runs the ball and they protect Justin Fields, they will win. I don't know how well they can protect Justin Fields because other teams have struggled, have been able to get to him, especially Wisconsin. I think they sacked him 5 times in each game, coming up the middle of those blitzes. And we know Brett Venables is going to bring a lot of blitzes. So if they can pick those up, I like Ohio State's chances. I think they'll be able to run the ball. It's interesting that a few days ago I was on a show and I picked Clemson because I wasn't prepared to give a pick. So I just thought, I'll go with the safe one. Maybe it's like maybe that's what everybody else is doing nationally. Go with the safe pick. But then the more I talk to the Clemson beat writers down here, and they tell me well, the defensive line isn't that good. Their best player is a freshman, and the safeties are okay, but nobody's really been able to take advantage of that. And the linebackers there's Isaiah Simmons, and then there's everybody else. And I start to feel like, well, maybe Ohio State is more prepared to face that than Clemson is prepared to face Ohio State. But for me, it still comes down to run the ball, protect Justin Fields, and I think Ohio State can outscore anybody.
Kevin, what's going to decide this game?
I think it's going to be who can run the ball. Travis Etienne, quietest 1,500-yard season that I can remember in recent memory, just does a great job of breaking tackles. Ohio State down the stretch really took a step back in terms of its ability to get guys down to the ground. If Ohio State's able to clean that up, Trevor Lawrence is going to get his in the passing game, but I think Ohio State would be able to outscore Clemson at that point. J.K. Dobbins is going to have to be able to carry the mail. I think that we're going to have to see a healthy enough Justin Fields for a little bit of that zone read action to keep Clemson honest. And what Urban said is obviously very true about the first couple of drives there, but who's going to be able to make the best adjustments? I think that's going to dictate a lot of it. Ohio State's played a team a lot closer to Clemson, and Clemson has played a team that's close to Ohio State. Talent equated across the board, but I think the running game is really going to dictate what's going to happen in this game.
Yeah, I would agree with what Kevin just said. I think it's incumbent on Ohio State, as I outlined earlier, to get J.K. Dobbins off. Justin Fields can't play tentative. Okay, let's say he is 80-85%. They don't intend on running him a lot. I think they need to show it early just so Clemson will respect it, whether they intend to do it a whole lot or not. I'm not saying put him in harm's way or injure him or anything like that, but I think it is part and parcel of his game and their game that, he is going to typically run it 7 or 8 times a game, maybe more, maybe less. And I'm interested to see what kind of condition he's in. And I think this game, to me, I think the offenses can move the ball between the 20s, but when they get down, let's say the 20-yard line, is somebody going to backpedal into pass pro because they're worried about the pressure coming off before the snap, and now you're knocked out of field goal range, or you're not going to get a touchdown on that drive? Is there going to be a blown coverage in the red zone to where somebody gets a cheapy touchdown? I mean, we've seen how many times this year Ruckert in the championship game, the last game, there wasn't anybody within 30 yards of him, and it was all Fields could do to get him the ball. He had to reach way up in the air and snag it out of the air with one hand to bring it in. And who's going to make that red zone mistake? Maybe turn it over in the red zone or turn it over on your own 15-yard line and put the other team in the red zone. Those are the things that determine these games. I think Ohio State's been pretty good in terms of red zone conversions, reasonably good on penalties, not good on fumbles. They're the bottom 5 or 10 nationally in fumbles lost, and some of that's been Fields. So it kind of cuts both ways. Lawrence is a surgeon, and as we said, if they give him time, he's going to pick them apart. So, and we've seen that in the past too. So again, I just think we are in for one heck of a football game. Probably this could be like the 2002 Ohio State Miami game, where there were 12 or 14, maybe 15 future NFL guys, and I'm not just saying guys who made a roster for a year or two and then went back home. These are guys that are going to play 4, 5, 10 years in the National Football League, probably as many as 10 of them on each side. So it's going to be one of these epic battles, sledgehammer back and forth. And I'm excited for it. You were trying to count the hours. I think it's like 30 and a half hours right now till we get there and get it going.